Hey everybody, this is your Right Geek and Honorary Man King here with another video. Today I'd like to do a little comparison contrast exercise. I'm going to talk about, first of all, the most recent Iron Man related comic that came out a couple weeks ago. And then we have here, what I did was I literally pulled out a random number generator and I just generated a random number of a comic from the Volume 1 era. And we're going to talk about these two comics and talk about why this one I didn't like so much, and this one, this average randomly selected comic from the Volume 1 era of Iron Man, I actually did like. So, this one, I read it, and then it just kind of slid off of my mind. And I think the reason why is that there's no one here that I really connect to. The question I kept asking myself as I read it is, where the hell are all the reasonable people? Because, you know, on the one side of the conflict that's going on here, you have the humans basically being willing to treat the artificial intelligences like they're slaves, essentially, that have no rights whatsoever. And then on the other hand, you have the people the AIs in the robot revolution who are basically calling humans meatbags and being assholes too. So the question is, where are the characters in this story who are willing to sit down and talk compromise? You know, it seems like everyone is dialed up to 11 and there's no one who's like, well, you know, if these artificial intelligences are actually sapient, then yes, they should have some rights. Let's talk about what that means from a reasonable compromise perspective. How can we actually live together as two types of life forms? I'm not seeing that yet. Now, it's possible, because this is just the beginning, this is really just the beginning of this particular event, that maybe Dan Slott is going to bring a character in who has that sort of compromise-oriented viewpoint. Maybe it will actually be our AI Tony, who has replaced the Tony who was brutally murdered. Please let it be that, because that would actually make me happy. But right now, I'm just not feeling it. I can't connect to it, because nobody here is really acting like a rational human being. How does that compare to randomly generated comic from Volume 1? So when I hit the random number generator, it came up with 138. So let's look at Invincible Iron Man number 138, which was in the middle of the McElhinney-Layton run, the first one. Basically, this is actually in the middle of a little arc where, once again, Tony's company is being sabotaged by the Magia, as we find out at the end of this particular comic. Sorry, spoiler for very, very old comic. Do spoilers count if the comic is super old? I don't think so. I think if you're into Iron Man, you probably have read this already, so... Anyway, so moving on, we have Tony outside of his armor facing the Dreadnought, and that's actually one thing I liked about this particular issue, is that for 99% of it, Tony was not in his armor. I love every time the comic takes him out of his armor for whatever reason, because as I have always insisted, I don't like Iron Man. Who I like is Tony Stark. Tony Stark is Iron Man. kind of like your boy Zach said in a video a few days ago, when it comes to Spider-Man. He said, Spider-Man is not a title. Spider-Man is a man, and his name is Peter Parker. Well, I insist upon something similar. Iron Man is not a title. Iron Man is a man, and his name is Tony Stark. And every time you take Tony Stark out of his armor, in the comics that are quality comics, you see that that his being Iron Man is a function of who he is as a person. The fact that he's intelligent and resourceful, and he doesn't actually need his armor to make it through. He can, in fact, rely just on his own wits and his own brains, which is kind of what happens. Not kind of, that is what happens in this comic. So you have, at the beginning, we have that Bethany Cabe's friend has just been brutally beaten, so Tony meets up with her at the hospital to find out what's going on. And Tony basically tells Cabe to let him handle it and you go back to Stark Industries. But of course she doesn't listen because she's a badass, and she convinces Rhodey to let her pursue this matter the way she wants to. And when they arrive at the place where they are tracking down the person responsible for this beating, they run into Tony, and Tony's like, okay, I guess we should team up then. I give up on trying to make you go home. Let's team up and work together. So we have this nice sort of, three-man team trying to track down whoever is responsible for the beating. And they end up getting knocked out with knockout gas. And when Tony wakes up, he realizes that Cabe is gone. Oh no. So he and Rhodey then have to go off and see if they can find where she is. And so we have this kind of, this is funny right here, when they get to their next location to try to locate Cabe, they basically bribe an electrician so that they can borrow his truck and his and his uniform, which is a lot better than breaking someone's hand to get their motorcycle. Tony's like, here, have $1,000 an hour. I need to borrow your stuff. That's rather nice. Oh, you know what? I just realized I forgot. When they, at the first location, when they park the helicopter, they actually get a ticket. And Rhodey's like, this Joker's giving us a ticket for setting down in a no parking zone. You want me to? And then Tony's like, no, he's right. That is moral, as #1 Marmaduke fan would say. So they go off in the helicopter again, and later on, there's a mention of the fact that, once again, they get another citation for parking their helicopter in the wrong place, which is really, really funny. And then, this is genuinely funny, too. While they're, again, unarmored, trying to tackle these thugs that are involved in Cabe's kidnapping here, they back up into this room, sight unseen. Armed security patrol headed this way. No problem, there doesn't look to be more than a dozen of them. Maybe, but we still need to keep a low profile. And then Rhodey starts going into this room, sight unseen, and Tony's like, but we don't know what's behind. Trust me, Chief, the Rhodes family luck gonna pull us through. And there's like a bunch of big badass guys inside. I actually laughed out loud when I read this. That was super funny, and the acting here is super funny. Some real, genuine humor and fun in this comic, and, the bro teamwork going on here. It's just so much fun, and it eventually ends with the cliffhanger that it's Whitney Frost again. So, This I could actually connect to. This felt human and real and funny. And these are characters I know and I like and I appreciate. I don't know who these people are. I don't know you. They are not the characters I like. This is the stuff that I like. So, Marvel, whatever you have to do, whatever kind of comic book science bullshit you have to pull out of your ass, bring back the real Tony Stark. That is the Iron Man that I want. That is the Iron Man that I'm sure a lot of other Iron Man readers want. This is fake. Thank you for listening.